For the past 7 to 8 years, they've been trying to censor and silence the Manosphere and these male spaces. What's even sadder is the fact that they've been trying and failing consecutively, despite the fact that they make all these claims about the Manosphere and these male spaces being toxic, being extremists, being terrorists, being misogynist. You get the idea. Even going as far as to make up bullshit in a desperate attempt to try to censor and silence their opposition. And when all their attempts failed, they do what they do best, CBC, cry, bitch, and complain. Yep, it's me again. They hate us. This is why they give a fuck about us at the same time as always. I am your host, JD Miles. The MGTOWs, they love to hate. Even the ones that claim everybody loves to hate them, loves to hate MGTOW at the same time as always, which is why they keep us relevant to this very day. And I'm back again, which y'all see the title of tonight's video. Why? Oh, why? Oh, why? Oh, why? Oh, why? No, not why. What, when, how? Yeah, how? How is now impossible to censor the Manosphere in male spaces. Now, why do I say it is now down to a point to where it is now impossible to censor and silence the Manosphere? And how did it get to this point? Okay, let's start off by pointing out all the bad actors in this tragic comedy. And yes, some of these groups do intertwine with each other. First off, let's start with the obvious, the race baiters. Now, the race baiters are known to make anything and everything be about race. In this situation, the race baiters' hatred towards the Manosphere and the male spaces is constantly revolved around what I call the triple Ks and the WS. Don't ask me what that is because I'm not going to say this shit because we all know how YouTube acts. Claiming the Manosphere and these male spaces are racist. The problem with their argument is that the fact that they disregard all the other races that are also part of the Manosphere. And these male spaces oftentimes, these race baiters are only limited to the United States and the West, while disregarding all the other countries where the Manosphere and these male spaces are known. The Manosphere red pill and the vast majority of male spaces are known universally known. They are not limited to just the US, the UK, or the West in general. Next up, we have the conspiracy theorists and propagandists. These two work hand in hand in situations like this. The conspiracy theorists and the propagandists will try to say just about anything to make their claims be true. From claiming that these male spaces are cults to claiming these male spaces have group meetings and get-togethers, often going as far as to use tragic moments to try to push a narrative and agenda. One prime example is mass shootings. They will make claims and accusations that the shooter has some connection with the Manosphere, the red pill, and other male spaces. However, their claims get easily debunked due to lack of evidence, as well as the fact that there is no connection between the shooters and any part of the Manosphere or male spaces. Up next, we have what is called the the forever victims. Now, the forever victims are, as I call them, the victimhood. They believe going around playing the victim and making up these false claims, reports, and accusations is somehow going to stop the manosphere and these male spaces. However, you cannot play the victim forever, with some even going as far as to make up false accusations in a desperate attempt to try to censor the manosphere and these male spaces. That's bad enough. That's bad enough. But then you also got the victimhood going as far as to accuse the manosphere and these male spaces for the most stupid and trivial of accusations, one of which is them accusing male spaces of murdering their ex-girlfriends, despite the fact that their ex-girlfriends are not only still alive, but they also on social media and they post regularly. Not to mention the victimhood has been exposed attacking and harassing other people that don't follow their causes and crusades. And one thing I always learned is this: never become what you hate. Never become what you hate. Or you're no better than the people that you accuse. Then we go to the next bad actor, the outsiders. Of course, the outsiders do what they do best, always looking in, thinking they have everything figured out and still be clueless to the fact. Now, here's a prime example of an outsider, a person who claimed that they infiltrated the manosphere and these male spaces, thinking they figured out these male spaces, but when you listen to them explain the manosphere and these male spaces, it's clear to see that they lack the research, or they decided to put their spin on their narratives. What they fail to understand is that the ones that is in the manosphere, in these male spaces, can easily point out their flaws and misconceptions. What's worse, they claim certain individuals in the male spaces are guilty of this, that, and the third. But when you look at their content, it's the exact opposite of what the outsiders are claiming. So basically, the outsiders always want to look in, always claiming that they're infiltrating, always claiming that it got these male spaces, the manosphere, the red pill. They always claim they got this shit figured out. But when you listen to them talk and try to explain it, they don't know shit. And oftentimes they're leaning on their own understanding, not the actual reason why the manosphere, red pill, and these male spaces exist. Now we down to the next bad actor, which is the woke media. And let's face it, everyone is now getting sick and fucking tired of this woke virtue signaling media bullshit. Especially when they come out with commercials, TV shows, and movie premieres trying to demonize men and boys. Meanwhile, the clueless sheep will use all of this as a way to push more censorship against these male spaces. However, woke media has a hard time trying to distinguish what is documentary from what is fiction. Now I talked about that Netflix premiere, Adolescence, and how it is nothing more than fear-mongering propaganda. And yes, I'll leave the link to that video in the comment section for those of y'all who want to check it out. But we're moving on. Yep, now we're down Now we are down to the last two bad actors, in which I call them the last two top bad actors in this tragic comedy. And what are these two bad actors that play a major role in it? Well, let's see. The Feminists. Yeah, we are now coming down to the top bad actors in this tragic comedy after all. And the Feminists are no exception to the rules. These are the main ones who are trying to censor and silence the manosphere and these male spaces. But in the process of the feminists trying to silence their opposition because of quote unquote misogyny, they have shown everybody their ugly, hypocritical side. What is that, you ask? The feminists has now turned into the same ones they claim were silencing and oppressing them. Yet here they are, being no better than the same ones they whine and cry about. So why do the feminists want to silence and oppress their opposition so bad, despite the fact that they themselves was in that exact same predicament? Again, never, ever turn into the ones you hate. Because of this, the feminists are now looked at as misandrists, man-haters. Yet these are the main ones who wants to get rid of the manosphere and these male spaces. In the end, they ended up becoming exactly what they hated. Need I say more? And finally, we have the federal government and organizations. And yes, I saved the best for last. Look how deep the federal government had their hands in this situation. From using outside sources to use of federal tax dollars funding organizations, especially from the feminists, to try to go at the manosphere and these male spaces, even though some of their attempts were considered unconstitutional and completely violated First Amendment rights. The organizations now to these organizations claiming these male spaces are terrorists and hate groups, despite the lack of evidence proving their claims, and the fact that they're afraid of their claims being challenged, despite the numerous attempts to have a sit-down conversation and to discuss these claims. Now think about it. If these organizations who are quick to say that the manosphere and these male spaces are hate groups, if they believe their claims are so true, why are they afraid? Why are they afraid to defend their claims? Despite the numerous challenges. But this is what they want people to believe. Now, all these groups I mentioned, I can honestly say are anti-manosphere, but despite their attempts, why does it always fail on their end? Here are a few reasons. The first one is they believe that the manosphere and these male spaces are they believe that the manosphere and these male spaces all think alike. In other words, they believe it's this one big group think, despite the fact that not only the manosphere itself consists of several different groups, from MRAs to PUAs to MGTOWs to fathers' rights, etc. When in reality, not only does these groups in the manosphere have their own way of managing and governing themselves, but another crucial detail is the fact that none of these groups in the manosphere cannot get along with each other. In fact, there are many crucial factors in the manosphere that completely disagree upon some groups, and don't even and what's more, they don't even get along with each other in the manosphere. Now this makes the situation even more complex. Yes, I'll say it again. Because the groups of the manosphere cannot get along with each other, now this makes the situation even more complex, rather than being open and uh, and rather being an open and shut case. Some will even add groups into the manosphere that don't even belong, such as the incels. And nobody in the manosphere gets along with the incels at all. But let the haters tell you everybody in the manosphere are incels just to have an argument, when in reality, the incels are in a group of their own. You even have some incels who came out debunking these claims. Now what they're trying to do is they're trying to add groups into existing groups. It doesn't work. Trying to have a missing link that doesn't connect to nothing, just to have a narrative. And what's more, since we're on the subject of incels, it is now down to a point to where the term incel completely lost its meaning. Especially when you got retarded fucks out here who want to label each and every man they don't like, they despise, and can't get along with as an incel. Despite the fact that these men are, one, got a woman in a relationship, they're married, they have children, and for some even have grandchildren, but somehow, some way, they are an incel. Make the retarded fuck ass logic make sense. And this is how and they wonder why we say the term incel lost its meaning. They just throw an incel onto random men, thinking that I don't like this guy, so he's an incel. But yet he's showing the exact opposite of being an incel. Again, make the retarded fuck ass logic make sense. And in the process of trying to get rid of the manosphere and these male spaces, the exact opposite happens. Instead, what they did was gave the manosphere and these male spaces free advertisement. So not only did they fail to stop the manosphere, the red pill, and these male spaces, but they also allowed more people to join these spaces more than anything, and they wonder why this happened. Another reason why it's failing for them is their conduct. They think everybody is only watching the manosphere, red pill, and male spaces. What they didn't expect was for those same people to look at how they were doing too. I mean, they are making all these claims. So what are they doing? What are they doing? What are their solutions? Well, I can answer that question. For some, their solutions is to go around harassing the ones who are involved, even going as far as to harass their family, getting them fired from their jobs, slander, making it their obligation to attack anyone and everyone that is part of the manosphere and these male spaces. However, the people are watching them just as much as they're watching the manosphere. but then they wonder why their crusades and their causes die out. Then these will be the same ones who didn't. These will be the same ones who didn't want to go on full attack mode against individuals doing the exact same thing they accused the Manosphere and these male spaces of doing: harassment, bullying, the whole 9 yards. And what's even more of an embarrassment, everybody is seeing this unfold, but these are the same ones who want to censor the Manosphere, Red Pill, and these male spaces. The consecutive failed attempts. In total, there have been 9 attempts to censor the Manosphere and these male spaces, and all 9 attempts failed miserably, mostly orchestrated by the feminists and the federal government, from Secret Service to FBI to Homeland Security. And it's been that way for the past 7 years. 7 years. Now, one must say at any given time and point, they would have got rid of the Manosphere and these male spaces by then, trying to see something from if you see something, say something PSA to the diverting hate movement, all the way to the presidential election. And every time they tried, not only did they fail, but they kept promoting and advertising the Manosphere, Red Pill, and these male spaces. Now it's down to a point where all the groups of the Manosphere, Red Pill, and male spaces, now they see and understand what they're trying to do. And it's now and are now prepared for the next attempt. Even President Trump signed an executive order preventing the federal government from censoring people's freedom of speech. Now, I made a post about this, letting it be known that this was going to be a devastating blow for the anti-Manosphere. And here is why. The anti-Manosphere can no longer use the federal government as a weapon to try to censor their opposition. And at this point, they must have probable cause, which they don't have. No more trying to censor your opposition because you don't like the opposition, or they have a vendetta against their opposition. But the most dreaded thing of all is that the anti-Manosphere just can't comprehend is that they can't stop everybody in the Manosphere, Red Pill, and these male spaces. And as they say about Hydra, what do they say about Hydra? You cut off one head, 2 more takes its place. And furthermore, they're trying to stop a symptom, not a cause. How do you think the Manosphere, Red Pill, and these male spaces came to play? Because they were the ones who created these spaces for men and boys. The same anti-Manosphere that's trying to get rid of them were the cause of them coming to play. And what's more, they're scared to admit it. By the end of the day, they're the cause of the symptom. This is why they're trying to get rid of the symptom. But that's like taking cough syrup trying to cure the common cold. Yeah, sure. They got rid of the cough, but what about the sneezy, achy, stuffy nose, congestion, and fever? Cough syrup can't treat those symptoms, and eventually that cough will return. And it's the same in this situation. They want to get rid of the manosphere, red pill in these male spaces, yet their way of trying to get rid of them ain't working. Plus, on top of that, we now got people who, instead of trying to censor the manosphere, red pill in these male spaces, they are now starting to understand the manosphere, red pill, and these male spaces. Some are more than willing to have a conversation, which is something these haters should be doing instead of trying to play cancel culture. But instead, they're triggered, so they just cry like a baby or like a spoiled child, falling out on the floor, kicking and screaming because their parents didn't give them the toy they want nor candy bar they want. So they just so because they can't get rid of the manosphere, and now it's down to a point where it's now impossible. Now they want to act a fool. Now they want to be in their feelings and emotions. They want to CBC, cry, bitch, and complain. They want to act like little kids that didn't get what they want. Period. Bottom line. But I said enough for tonight. And yes, the motherfucking saga continues. But I said what I had to say. I'm done. More videos like this coming down the pipe. Stay tuned, and I'm out this bitch. Later.